Hello, everybody, and welcome to what is now the fifth It's in Queens podcast, the historic number 5. As always, I am Rob Mackay, the man who runs the Queens Tourism Council, and to my left is Chris Donovan from the Daily News. Both the Queens Tourism Council and the Daily News are the co-sponsors of this event. Chris, how are you today?
I'm great, Rob. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm doing pretty darn well. So this podcast is covering the second month in February, which is the 7th to the 14th.
Second week.
Second week. Did I say the second month?
Well,
in February?
February is the second month, so you weren't wrong.
Right. So the February 14th is, of course, a very big day for my friend over here, Chris Donovan.
I'm a hopeless romantic, Rob. You know me so well.
Will you be doing anything with your wife this?
Of course. You get the flowers, you get the dinner, you get the whole thing. You got to keep it going. Otherwise,
Really?
You don't want to be the doghouse, right?
Wow. Yeah, see, I have the exact opposite. My wife can't. I don't think she can even remember the day we got married, but that's okay.
Isn't it a national holiday in Queens?
I'll have to show her this podcast.
That's right.
So since we're on the subject of romance and February the 14th, there are actually a lot of things going on in this borough. I'm going to tell you that on our website, it'sinqueens.com, there's actually a separate post all just about Valentine's Day events, and this includes a lot of stuff like craft events for kids and food at restaurants and other things like that, and a couple other things that I think we should talk about today.
Queens has a lot of love to share.
Queens,
let's put it that way, right?
Queens is we're full of love over here.
Full of love.
I guess the first thing I'd like to mention is actually happening on February 10th. It's where you can get your head start on,
Absolutely. In my house, Valentine's Day is a week-long
right,
celebration.
it's a Valentine's week here in Queens. Two stars from the Met Opera. One is a tenor and the other is a soprano. Are going to give an afternoon concert where they're going to sing basically duets, of course, love songs, and a lot of opera, Wagner, Puccini, Verdi, Strauss, and they're going to do it at the Church in the Gardens in Forest Hills Gardens, which is an absolutely beautiful church.
Gorgeous
tremendous
specimen, yeah.
stained glass, everything else. And what's kind of fun about it is that beyond the fact that these two are obviously Met Opera quality, is that the local piano player named Barbara Podgorski, who organizes a lot of singing events at that church, is going to accompany them on piano.
Nice.
So that's an option for you. Do you think your wife would be interested in that?
You know what? If it's, she's more of like a Lionel Richie love song type of person, but I think we can convince her to see a little opera.
Lionel Richie love song. Well, then how about this? Would
got?
she be interested in botanical Valentines on February 8th at the Queens Botanical Gardens? This is where people will design their own botanical cocktail.
Oh, look at that. Now, that's something that I'd be interested in. She does those paint and drink little seminars they have at the bars.
Yep, sure.
So I think you put a cocktail in her hand and have her make something. I think that's a good fit for
And
her.
as it's the Queens Botanical Garden, they'll be using juices and elixirs and other things inspired by beautiful flowers.
Oh, so you're making your own artisanal cocktail. Is that how it? Is that
Yes,
how they're breaking
it's
down
an
there?
artisanal botanical cocktail.
Very
romantic
cool. You can
cocktail.
get elderflower, right? Isn't elderflower?
Elderflower, I'm sure, is hot on the list.
That's right.
Right after roses. We have two Valentine's Day markets in the borough. Of course, you want to get your wife the right gift.
Absolutely.
Why not shop in Queens?
Shop
and why
locally.
not shop locally? And why not buy locally made products? Because a lot of these people are. It says right here, both of them are on February 11th. Both of them start at noon. There's one at the Bohemian Beer Garden, which is in Astoria, the great Czech place.
Absolutely. One of the older ones, right?
Yeah, where they have a beautiful outdoor beer garden. But they also have indoor. They do a lot of ballet and stuff like that there.
Also home to my sister's graduation party in 1992.
So
they have that going
they're
for
still
them.
cleaning up after
That's
it?
right.
Your sister's
right.
graduation
Somebody
party at the
graduated
Bohemian
at
Beer. Yes, someone graduated college. So these are handmade and vintage wares made by local artists. It's done by a group that does it all the time in Astoria. The other one is further out. It's Rockaway Beach. In fact, it's at the Reese Point Bar. But again, they're saying jewelry, candles, body scrubs, plants, much more. So that sounds like fun.
Yeah, can't beat the setting right off the ocean. It's a beautiful place.
Yep, can't beat the setting right off the ocean. And we remind you again, food and other stuff, please go to our website. Now, I wanted to try two things on you, Chris. Number one, have you ever heard of sacred steel music?
I did not until earlier today when I did a little bit of research on this.
Oh.
But I found out the Campbell brothers, who happen to be coming to Queens very soon, are one of the biggest acts in the sacred steel genre.
Right. So as I understand it, and maybe your research is different from mine, but as I understand it, it's basically sort of a merging of rock and roll and gospel. It's a kind of a music that came up out of the Pentecostal church, really in the South more than anything else. Kind of when people when they started playing guitars instead of organs while singing songs in church.
That's it. Yeah, and the lap guitar plays a prominent role in this. And
yeah, the lap guitar, like that, right?
Yeah,
right.
And it's a very cool sound, and it's something very unique to this band. I don't think you're going to hear many bands that sound like them. So I think it's a great opportunity to get out there.
So so it's it's unique and it's here in Queens. The other
Where was that?
Oh, that's at Flushing Town Hall. Did I not say that?
No, I think we missed it.
It is at Flushing Town Hall, and it is February 9th. I also wanted to ask you, do you enjoy 18th century cooking?
Funny you should ask. When I saw this on the list, my first thought was a Parks and Rec episode where Patton Oswalt is the guest star, and he's a guy who wants to keep this tradition going on where they throw this guy Tim into the water. And what happened was the founders of Pawnee, the fictional town they were in, misspelled T on the document, so they throw Tim into the water instead of T. And there was this one guy, Tim, who was tired of getting thrown into the water, so he wanted the laws changed.
Oh, he should have changed his name.
That's right. And so Patton Oswalt's character was upset that they're changing things that have been a tradition since the 1800s. And the challenge was if he could live as a man in the 1800s versus Leslie Knope, the main character, he would get to keep the law, and if she won, she would get to repeal the law. So they were able to. They showed us how they made butter, and they showed us.
Really?
Yeah,
they
18th
century.
18th century.
There you go.
That's the tie into the 18th century cooking class.
That was on TV. If you want to see this live with people dressed in 18th century garb and using, as they say right here, how the early settlers prepared food using an open hearth, and you would learn how to cook with 18th century recipes, seasonal ingredients, and traditional cooking utensils.
And that's really artisanal.
Yep.
Going back that far.
That's really artisanal. That's at the Queens County Farm Museum on February 10th. Worth mentioning that the Queens County Farm Museum, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to annually do a medieval thing where they would cook they would cook medieval type food using medieval and cook it around a big open fire. So that's all kind of interesting stuff. I would like to also mention a couple more things. Number one is that we have a famous Israeli singer named, excuse me if my pronunciation is wrong, but Achinoam Nini, coming to the Free Synagogue of Flushing on February 11th, which definitely sounds good. The Free Flushing Synagogue does a lot of cultural stuff. And then there's a movie called Finding Samuel Lowe. Do you know anything about your let's say grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents?
So I've been searching for a long time for a project that I did in school that I remember I went back as far as my great-grandparents, and I knew they came from Italy. One side came from Italy, the other side came from Ireland. I'm trying to find that, but I think my next move is to sort of do that 23andMe or Ancestry.com.
You're gonna do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got a little guy, and he's he would like to know where he's from, and he's got a very interesting mixed background, so I think it would be good for him to know that.
Okay, well, Finding Samuel Lowe is a documentary about two, you would probably call African American women because they were living in Harlem.
It was one woman and two. It was two brothers and a sister.
Two brothers and a sister. But they were actually they traced their heritage back to Jamaica, and in the time of doing it, they actually found out that they had a Chinese great grandfather.
That's right. Yeah.
Chinese great grandfather in Jamaica, and they actually went back to China. They went to China to find all of their relatives, their cousins, their nieces and nephews, and great nieces and great nephews, and so on. And so apparently, it's a very emotional documentary that you can follow them on their journey from Harlem to Jamaica to Toronto to China.
Yeah,
Sounds kind of interesting.
it was, and it's actually got two Queen's tie-ins, if you can indulge me.
Sure.
Paula Williams, who's the star of the movie, was also a speaker at the Queen's Book Fair this past summer.
Ah, okay.
All right, so the
Has
Queen's
she
Book
written
Fair.
a book about this?
Yeah, she has.
Oh,
She
okay.
has a book
There's a
also
book
about
out of it.
finding
Uh-huh.
Samuel Lowe. And the other part is, I don't know if you know VP Records.
Yeah.
VP Records is
Jamaica.
a prominent reggae and soca label that's based here in Queens.
Uh-huh.
And the family who runs and owns VP Records are of Chinese and Jamaican heritage.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. That's
The Chin family.
I read a biography on Bob Marley, and he was feuding with them
That's
actually, for a while.
right. That's right.
All right, I would say one more. I know we don't have that much time, but there's Amiri Baraka, who was a beat poet in his time. He actually came from Newark, but he also wrote some plays. His son is now Ross Baraka. He's the mayor of Newark, of all
okay.
things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has a play called Dutchman, and it is about to go on a 4-day run at the Secret Theater in Long Island City. My understanding is that it's a tough play. It's he's kind of takes the Adam and Eve story, but he changed it. It's a blonde white woman and an African American male meet on the subways in the 1960s. She makes a pass at him. He refuses her, and in her spite, she gets him in trouble.
Yeah.
Does that tell me
That's
what?
pretty accurate, and it was a movie in the 1960s as well. The starring role was played by Al Freeman, who has two Malcolm X connections. He was Malcolm X in The Roots of the Next Generation TV saga, and then he was also Elijah Muhammad in the Malcolm X movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And he's coming to Queens?
He's not. He's unfortunately he's passed away, but he was the one who originated the roles.
Oh, he originated the role.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Malcolm X, as we all know, used to live in East Elmhurst, Queens.
That is
We
correct
might
as
as well
well.
just throw that out there. All right. So I'm wondering. You were talking earlier about your wife. And
Yes.
we were talking about your son. Now, last week, anyone who watched this podcast would have known that we had a special guest.
That's right, Joe DeStefano.
So if you turned on this time, you'd be like, hey, where's the special guest? Well, we happen to have a special guest here with us. Liam, come on out. For those of us who don't know, Liam is Chris's 6-year-old son. Last week's podcast, I misidentified him as being 5 years old, but he is 6. He had his birthday in October, even though he didn't invite me. Liam, tell the audience a little bit about what you love about Queens. What do you love?
So I like about Queens that there's the Hall about Silence. The Hall about Science.
The Hall of Science,
the
yeah.
Natural History Museum
Uh-huh.
of New York
That's
is.
in Manhattan. But
That's one's in Manhattan, but the Hall of Science is in Queens, and
Well, we can still go on the bridge and drive over to Manhattan. So.
oh,
We
okay.
could, but this is a Queens podcast, so let's stay in the borough.
Sorry,
else do you like?
everybody, for
That's
saying
okay.
about that. But
What else do you like about Queens?
I like about Queens that that it has game shop and all this cool stuff where you get to games.
Oh, you talking about the game shop in Flushing, at the mall in Flushing?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
Also, it's arcades and
Arcades, uh-huh.
And I like the video game company that made Minecraft.
Oh, Minecraft. Okay.
I'm not sure they were
That's,
based in Queens.
well, there's Minecraft has been played in Queens. In fact, I think you play Minecraft in Queens sometimes, don't you?
Where you get to sing when I was waiting for my dad to do the single to put me up on podcast. I was playing Minecraft.
Oh, Minecraft. Okay.
I'm a big fan. A lot of people play it.
What's your favorite restaurant in Queens?
Okay, so, I have a lot of favorite restaurants. That's
Okay.
a question you can ask me, but I don't have a favorite. I just like restaurants.
Okay.
I don't know my favorite restaurant. I just came back from Burger King.
Oh, well, Queens has some of the best Burger Kings. I've noticed that. All right, we're gonna have one more question. Are you a Yankees fan or a Mets fan?
Mets.
All right, there we go. Queens true and true, as we say. All right, thank you, everybody. For more information, please go to itsandqueens.com and look at our weekly column. In this case, also look at our Valentine's Day specials. And we have a whole bunch of other articles about what's going on in the borough then. Thank you for tuning in. Anybody else want to say goodbye? Liam?
Bye.
Okay.
We'll see you next week.
Okay, all right.
I bet I'm going to be there.
You're gonna tune in next week. You might be able to see Liam again. All right, thank you.